What's up, guys? Welcome to Coast again. I'm here with Mateo, my co-host, along with me, Robert Bentulan. Going to talk about a couple of things today. Some more comments on Joe Cronin to the Miami Heat. We're going to give one hypothetical trade we could see legitimately happening for the Heat to land Dame. We're going to talk about the shape of the East and how it looks as of today. We're going to talk about James Harden and Joel Embiid's comments and a couple other things as well. With that said, what's up, Mateo?
Good to be back, man. Luckily, the WNBA is what gives me a basketball fix these days. Summer League, for the most part, was awful, but thank goodness for the ladies. How are you?
Yeah, man, you said it. I saw a lot of people, not just you, but a lot of people were upset in general about the WNBA not being on a primetime scheduled event with all, the sports taking a couple days off of the SBs and all that stuff. So I share the same thoughts as you on that. But yeah, other than that, man, I'm doing pretty well. Just a typical Tuesday here, man. Excited to talk some hoops.
And to clarify a little bit, it was on Friday, the 3-point shootout and the skills challenge in the WNBA. It started at 5 p.m. Eastern time while people are leaving work, or people at least in the West Coast are, still there, of course. And Sabrina Ionescu made
Yeah.
history. 37 points, the ultimate shooting performance in this type of contest. It's never been done before. I wish
Yeah.
more people saw it.
If anyone gets a chance, I highly recommend you go on YouTube and check it out. She's a sniper from the floor. Went to Oregon, was one of the best players in college. I mean, she really is a an awesome player. So props to her. With that said, let's get right into it, man. So this morning, I'm driving to work. I'm there. I get an update saying Joe Cronin has told the Heat apparently to make them their best offer, and we'll find out what he does from there. So that was from Shams, who's a pretty good reporter. We've noted before he gets good information. With that said, what are your thoughts on that, real quick?
Well, Joe Cronin has, recently put out, through Shams that he wants the Heat's best quote unquote trade package. And that's, pretty demanding when there's not really other offers out there. But if we're really playing that game, the best one that I could think of, Rob, is, rookie Jaime Jaquez, red shirt rookie, pretty much, Nikola Jovic, Tyler Hero. The one that really hurts is Caleb Martin. When you add up all of these players, you're breaking over 40 million. You're getting seriously close to Lillard's dollar mark. But that seems to me like a very good deal. Oh, along with multiple first round picks. If you can get Oklahoma City to take the restrictions off, you can offer up to 3. This is as good as it gets, to my understanding. The Heat already offered something, but Cronin, through his cronies, has put out that it is no good. But here's the thing: to my understanding, I think this would be the best package available regarding just 2 teams. A third team, I'm not no capologist. It would be a little bit too complicated for me to do right now, but this seems perfectly, like a good deal, especially when you consider that there's nothing else out there coming with
Yeah.
how aggressive Aaron Goodwin has been, to lure other teams away from Damian or from the hunt. So, what do you think about this?
I like it, man. But at the same time, I really believe there's an avenue. I'll talk about it in a second where you can keep Haskins because the Heat are no dummies. They gave Haskins his rookie extension or whatever it was, and he wasn't able to be traded for 30 days. Now I believe it's up to 20 days. But it's tough to part with not only Martin but Jovic, and was Jovic in your deal?
Yes, yes.
Jovic and Haskins, that's a lot. I really believe there's an avenue where it's either one or the other two. But overall, I mean, if that's what it takes to get Dame, I agree. I also, in my trade as well, I ultimately have them, getting the restrictions lifted from OKC in a small side deal where maybe they throw in an extra second round pick down the road to move that protection. But I like it. But for your trade thing, is this a deal you would also be okay with in general?
I'm sorry. Was that?
Is that a deal you would do 100%? Send it in.
I missed the part because my connection cut out on your part, your addendum.
Yeah. So is this a deal you would for sure do? Let's say that was the only option to get Dame, and that was the best deal that he could make. Is it something you would do to pull the trigger to get Dame?
Right now, I would do. Right now, I would do it because these young players, they weren't really a factor last season, and what I think Damian Lillard, his production is so much greater than what you lose in Strus and Vincent combined, and also Caleb Martin. He's not the defender that Caleb Martin is and can't guard multiple positions, but he's explosive enough on the offensive end where you can kind of compensate a little for the loss. Guys like Haywood Highsmith would need to step up and take a bigger role this season, but definitely I would do this if this is as much as the Heat have to give up to get a big fish like Damian Lillard, who's top 75 all time. I recommend doing it. The one that also hurts is Tyler Hero because he is kind of like the Heat's golden boy. He had a terrific regular season, didn't get to show out in the playoffs because he broke 2 bones in his hand, but you can't pass up this opportunity, especially when someone like Lillard has specifically said Miami or bust.
Yeah. And as we're recording this, I'm going to put these on the screen so, viewers at home can see the picture. But basically, here's my 3-way deal. So I have the Heat getting Damian Lillard and also taking on the salary dump of Yusuf Nurkic. And in return, the Trailblazers will get Kyle Lowry, Kelly Olynyk from the Jazz, Tyler Horton Tucker from the Jazz, Caleb Martin, and 5 first-round picks, 3 of them being from the Heat and 2 of them being from the Jazz. And then I have the Jazz taking on Tyler Hero. Adds to their collection of young talent. They want to get pretty good right away. So to repeat that, you have Tyler Hero going to the Jazz. You have Lowry, Olynyk, Horton Tucker, Caleb Martin going to the Blazers along with 5 first-round picks, 3 of them being from the Heat, 2 of them being from the Jazz via Cleveland and via Minnesota, and then Damian Lillard and the salary dumping Yusuf Nurkic going back to the Heat. I think it's a win-win for everyone. What do you think about that?
Well, kudos to you for getting multiple teams, involved because the more you add it, it's harder. But, bringing in Damian Lillard, if any deal works, that passes, the salary restrictions or, lack thereof, I would suggest doing it because right now the Heat are in a position where they need Damian Lillard because of what they've lost in Strus and Vincent. And, they've kind of been, waiting specifically for this. There's been other guys who they've been possibly could have gone after, but they just said, nah, like this is our potential white whale. And, they needed to go down. So if that one is approved through, the trade machine or, the Fanspo machine, I would definitely do it.
Yeah. So the reason I like this deal is because they end up keeping not only Jovic but Jaquez too, and I think that's very important down the road because there'll be cheap contracts when that new CBA kicks in and looms in. So, any young talent they can keep at a cheap price, I definitely think it's worth doing. Obviously, Martin's going to be tough to let go, but and his contract. But if I can get 2 young guys for a pretty good amount of money and also bring back a superstar, I'm doing that all day. So. Yeah, I would love that trade for the Heat. And like I said, for the viewers at home, you're going to be able to see the picture of both our trades and let us know in the comments what you think, or you can let us know at our Twitter or 5 Reasons Sports Twitter page. But yeah, man, any last words on the Dame situation? I mean, at this point, there's only so much to talk about. We virtually get, tidbits of information every other day now. Like I said, I think the writing's on the wall. I do think ultimately Dame will be in Miami. It's just a matter of how long it's going to take. I'm a pretty patient guy. Seems like you are too. I don't know the rest of Heat Nation is, or a lot of them, but like I said, these deals take time to play out. We obviously see what Cronin's trying to do. So, look, man, I'm just going to enjoy the summer. When basketball season rolls around, I fully expect Dame to be in a Heat jersey.
The only thing that I can envision that could derail a potential Dame to Miami swap is if he gets cold feet and says, or he just caves because of public opinion is swelling against him, which I don't think is going to happen, or he just, doesn't like, his stance of what he's taken against Denver, or excuse me, what he's taken against Portland,
Yeah.
If he's the only thing that could, derail this deal, because right now, I hate to say it, like the players can, do what they want, you know, even with so many like years left on their deal. I don't even think you need to be someone of Damian Lillard's caliber. If you got a super agent who can really, dissuade teams from, getting involved, you really can do what you want. It's probably will take some time. It could take, up to training camp, but this is going to go the way Damian Lillard wants it to go.
Yeah, 100%. At this point, I don't think he's going to get cold feet. Just everything that's been going on, I find it hard to believe he's going to ask to want to just come back. But like I said, man, patience is key here. We're two pretty patient guys. Let's see what happens. I know a lot of Heat Nation want their superstar, but guess what? Basketball doesn't start for another couple of months. We can wait. Enjoy the summertime. And let me ask you a quick question before we move on to the next topic here. But Orlando Robinson has played another good game. You think he's done enough to at least get some playing time this season for Miami? I know they signed Thomas Bryant to a deal. Maybe they might get Nurkic in a deal. We'll see. But let's throw Nurkic out the door. That's all hypothetical. Let's just go with the what has we have right now, and that's Thomas Bryant. You think Orlando Robinson could crack some playing time?
I would prefer he get more minutes over Thomas Bryant. Like if this is as many bigs as they're going to keep going forward, he's someone who I like more than Bryant. Bryant is one of the worst big man defenders in the league. I know he can put up some points, but Orlando Robinson is kind of getting better in the drop. He could be a little robotic at times, but he's already got continuity in the Heat system, and he's already worked well. Of course, worked well with some of the guys in the summer league, some of the guys who've already been on the team last season. Getting him more reps at the pro level is only going to help his development, and I'm in favor of that over the new guy.
Yeah, 100%, man. Look, I love the young guys that play hard and play well. He's definitely earned some minutes. We'll see if this is. We have to remember. I mean, you and I know summer league is completely different from the NBA. But it's nice to see a guy trying hard, putting up numbers. It's always a good opportunity for Orlando and for anyone else who comes out of the G League. So we'll see, man. There's definitely be an opportunity there for some players because the roster will be thin ultimately when Dame comes to Miami. So there will be opportunities. It's just a matter of can they cash in at the right time. With that said, let's move on. We're going to talk about a little bit of the state of the East today and how it looks out. Mateo, I'll give you the first crack at it, man. What do you think of this East next year and some of the teams that pop out from you?
Well, going with like a top four, I have the Bucks returning to conference supremacy. Giannis, had a freak accident in the first 11 minutes of a game one against Miami where he hurt his tailbone. He came back eventually, and I'm sure, but that still limited him despite, his gaudy numbers. Whatever, they re-signed Brooke Lopez. They got Chris Middleton back. Jay Crowder will be able, to go through training camp with them. They got a new coach in Adrian Griffin, would probably be the biggest deterrent because, having a new instructor in this position when you're trying to compete may not always be a good thing. Sometimes like the veteran players, go all out, especially during the regular season, for the new guy. And
yeah.
I kind of feel like the Golden State Warriors did that a little bit for Steve Kerr in 2014, 2015. Also, he implemented a very new system for the Warriors that year that, kind of took the ball out of Steph's hand. That also helped. But, I like the Bucks returning to number one. Number two, I like the Boston Celtics. This move for Kristaps Porzingis is very impactful. Giving up Marcus Smart is a very good player, but you got, an excellent big man. He's not one of the guys who's going to destroy you with actions inside of the paint, but he can really make things complicated with mismatches outside, shooting, against their guys like Robert Williams or Al Horford, or if he gets somebody else switched on to him. I really like what they've done. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are a great duo. They're going to be very motivated after blowing Game 7 at home last season to the Miami Heat, and then the previous year going to the NBA Finals. They're a team to look out for. Joe Mazzulla, he's added some new names to his coaching staff. I know he's not able to pick some of these guys, but they are good assistants. But they are a team that is probably going to be better next season and probably deadlier in the playoffs. The Miami Heat are my third best team in the East. You can't count them out because they're the reigning Eastern champions. It does hurt that at this moment they have lost Strus and Vincent. and you are in a state like of limbo or purgatory as you await for Dame. But eventually, I think it's going to get done. And why I'm putting them as high as 3 is I don't believe they really care so much about their record in the regular season, because the type of dogs and mentality they have, they think they can go on the road and beat anybody, evident by what they did in 3 out of 4 rounds this season. And then my fourth team, Rob, for home court advantage in the playoffs next year in the East would be the Cleveland Cavaliers. I have them. I really like them. Darius Garland's only going to get better. He's an excellent combo guard. His only problem is that he's a little small and just we can go at him a little bit defensively. Spider is a nuclear option. He scored 71 points this year in a game against Chicago. He was just tremendous. First team All NBA. He's got tremendous wingspan. He just really has to give a what on defense to be impactful. My big name on this team is Evan Mobley. He is eventually going to be an MVP candidate in this league, and the jump players make from year 2 to 3 is a real big one, especially for most star players. This is the position Evan is in. He was a first team defender last season, and if you were watching him from like January to when the season ended, he was kind of on a tear. He was excellent. His post hook looked very good to me. He was one of the best defenders.
Legitimate chance he could have won Defensive Player of the Year.
Like an 18-10 for that stretch. I'm sorry, what's up?
Was a legitimate chance he could have won Defensive Player of the Year. He's really making a push at the end of the year for that. I mean, I agree.
Most definitely. But here's the thing with Evan, why I don't think he could have won it last year. A candidate, but why I wouldn't have given it to him. It seems like against the really good players, not even in the playoffs, like the best at his position, like Embiid, Jokic, Triple J. It seems like they would get the better of him because they were so much stronger than him. They could, outwork him and, push him around like closer to the basket. But what separates him with a lot of players is that he can switch outside and really harass smaller players and stop the ball out there. But to round off my top of the East next year is probably going to be Milwaukee, Boston, Miami, and Cleveland.
Yeah, and look, to piggyback off your top 5 teams, we're also going to talk about maybe a sleeper team or two. But look, I'm basically in the same boat in the teams you chose, maybe different order a little bit. For one, me also, it's the Milwaukee Bucks. Last season, people really forget that Giannis was really hurt. He missed 2 games. If he plays a whole series, I think we're really talking about a different outcome for the Heat. But that's not to take anything away from the Heat. They played fantastic. Look, second team is the Boston Celtics. I'm assuming they're going to re-sign Jaylen Brown. They haven't done it yet. I do expect them at some point to get that taken care of. I will say it's a little bit odd. It's not done yet, but look, Tatum, Brown, Porzingis is obviously offensively a great trio. I have some questions defensively, but look, if Porzingis can stay healthy, I think there's a legitimate chance they can finish number 1 in the East. I'm going with the what haves right now. Number 3, I'm going to probably say the Sixers. Joel Embiid is still an MVP, still in his prime. He was one of the best players in the league last year. Tyrese Maxey, obviously, I think is ready to take that next step to being the second star on the team. We're gonna talk about James Harden in a bit, but off those 2 guys, I'm sure they're gonna get some nice pieces back for Harden in terms of veteran players, maybe like Norman Powell, Trey Mann, a couple firsts. Those guys can contribute. Look, Sixers. They're just a team that's going to play hard every night. Nick Nurse is a no BS guy. He's going to put them in a position to succeed every night. I think they're going to play hard. I think they're going to do everything they can to keep Embiid motivated for one more season, hopefully get him out of the second round. But look, those are my top 3. I think I'm going with the what haves right now. Miami Heat without Dame right now are probably in the 4-5 territory because they do play hard every night. You can't ever take them out for granted. But I think they're more of a playoff team than a regular season team. I think they're willing to let Butler rest a lot this season, considering they essentially played 1/3 of a season in the playoffs already. So they're going to be tired. They're going to be, not well rested up compared to all these other teams. But listen, if they get Dame, it's a completely different story, but I'm not going to play hypothetical here right now. I'm just going to talk about the team they do have. They did lose Strus, They did lose some key players. They lost Gabe Vincent. I mean, those guys are key to the team. So they're obviously, I think it does make sense for them to take a step back. Look, I like the Knicks. I like some of the teams you mentioned, but I'm going to be honest. This might surprise you, Mateo, but my number 5 team this year, I think they're really ready to make a step towards the 5 seed. I think Benedict McThernan is going to take a huge second year this year. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I love the moves they made this offseason. I think Obi Toppin's going to have a good season. It would not shock me if the Pacers are the 5th seed next year, along with Rick Carlisle. I know the Cavs are super talented. We'll see what they do with Jared Allen, but there's times where the Cavs are just so inconsistent. And I think that a Rick Carlisle team, along with Tyrese Halliburton, who just got his max, I love some of the moves they made. They just got Brucey B, as you talked about on the last pod. I think they're in prime position to be the 5th seed this year. What do you think about that?
It's bold, but where they got an advantage over other teams who are vying for this spot is, or even like at least Cleveland, even they have a better coach than Cleveland. I would take Rick Carlisle over Bickerstaff all day. A champion. With the 2011 Mavericks, but I really like them. Bruce Brown, we mentioned it on the last show, is one of the upper class, middle players in the NBA. You shouldn't just look at his stats and be like, this is all he can do. Not so fast. He is someone that really impacts winning, because let's just say he had like a five points on the stat sheet. He was probably guarding the other team's best perimeter player. Bruce Brown is that type of dude. Obi Toppin is, I can't say enough good things about him. I think the New York Knicks severely underutilized his talents. He's going to be one of the prime candidates for most improved player of the year.
I agree with that 100%.
We didn't put out a full playoff list, but truthfully, they're going to be on mine, and they could be a dark horse to really make some things interesting. And I don't even mention the Philadelphia 76ers. I really don't trust too much in that operation, even with a champion of Nick Nurse's caliber now leading the instruction. But I do like that. The Heat. You are right about the point about Butler missing games. I don't think we're ever going to see him again hit the 65 threshold for any type of awards. Especially when you consider how he'll be 34 soon, and what the type of run he had this season, last season, and the bubble. There can only be so much of this, that he has left, knock on wood, considering his age. But I really like your picks, and I really like this Indiana one for sure, because I'm a big fan of Halliburton too.
Yeah, for all you bettors out there, man, I wonder what their odds are to maybe crack the top 4, but I wouldn't rule that out, man. Look, I'm just Halliburton's one of my favorite players in the league. I really love his game. I think he's a true point guard. He's unselfish. He can score if he needs to be, or he can pass it up. Defensively, he's gotten a lot better. He tries on the defensive area. He's not the most lockdown player in the world, but he gives a what, and he's a competitor, and that really resonates with the other guys. Look, I have questions if Miles Turner will be there the whole season, but when he's right, man, he plays hard. He's a pretty good player. Buddy Hield coming off the bench, you know what you're going to get from him. But look, you guys got like TJ McConnell, Bruce Brown. You got a bunch of quote unquote dogs in that team that really play basketball and are no BS guys. So along with a coach who doesn't take any BS either, I think this is the year they're primed to make some noise in terms of climbing up the Eastern rankings this year for sure.
I could see them having one of the most lethal pick and roll options again, especially when you consider when you think of Hield setting a pick for Halliburton for some pick and pop, and then you have someone who is possibly going to be left open like Obi Toppin on the baseline, unbothered for a lob. They got multiple options, and maybe in the opposite dunker spot or at the elbow, you got Miles Turner. Miles Turner. And Miles Turner, a stretch big who can also defend on this team. He's someone who, he hits 45% of his shots in the corner. They're going to have a lot of space, for guys like Toppin, Halliburton to make devastating cuts toward the lane. I really like the Indiana Pacers, and this is, kudos to you for making this observation.
Yeah, man. I don't want to make this a Pacers podcast, but I really like what they got going on this year. I just like guys that play hard and are no BS guys. Halliburton is one of my favorite players in the league. He obviously plays for, a smaller market in Indiana, but if you're a true NBA fan, everyone knows who Halliburton is, who, by the way, just signed that max contract for $265 million, something like that. So he got the bag, and he's a guy that's going to get better every season. Before we move on from the East, is there any other teams that that are, I don't know, I should say sleeper, but just a team that's piqued your interest?
Yeah, the Atlanta Hawks. They're going to have a training camp with the guy that they hired last year in Quinn Snyder. Apparently, the relationship with him and Trae Young is very good. This is how it started. Apparently with Coach Nate a couple of years ago. Hopefully, it doesn't sour this time the way that one did. But it's very important for someone like Snyder to get the temperature check of his group is starting like real early in the summer, and to start building the relationships before they get in the trenches. They're an outfit with a bunch of talent. I really like DeAndre Hunter. DeJounte Murray is still there. Trae Young, of course. They're a team with talent that last year severely underwhelmed, and I think with new instruction they can do a little bit. They can do a lot better, at least in the East. And they did ultimately take 2 games away from the Celtics in the first round, and that was kind of like one of the first signs that the Celtics weren't all that this season.
Yeah, I like your pick with the Hawks. I think part of the reason why they traded John Collins is because they really like AJ Griffin and really want to give him a chance to see what he can do. He was a promising young rookie last year, but I don't know. I feel like they had so much talent, but it's just so clogged up. There's only so many people you can give the ball to, and John Collins going to the Jazz was a nice move, I think, for both teams. But AJ Griffin out of Duke last year is a promising rookie. I think they want to see what they have more of him. Quinn Snyder likes to use him. They also have Clint Capella, the veteran. I forgot his name, but I love the backup center they have. He's a pretty good player. He could be a starting player for a couple of teams. Do you know who the backup center is? His name is killing me right now. I think it's Dumia or Dumia.
I'm drawing like myself, actually.
Yeah, but he's a solid player.
I'm sorry. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Onyeka Okongwu. I'm sorry.
Yeah, correct. Yep. He's a pretty good. Yeah, he's a pretty good center, man. I think he's arguably the best backup in the league. I really like his game. He could be a starting center for a couple of teams. I mean, this team, if we're going pound for pound roster wise, is up there with some of the top teams in the East. Is just, can they really get some consistency? I think that's why they brought Quinn Snyder out there. Is Trae Young gonna learn to? Can they? I think that my thing with them is, can they be successful without Trae Young having the ball all the time in his hands? I feel like Trae Young and the Hawks are going to have to both give a little bit. Trae Young is a ball dominant player. They have DeJounte Murray there, who was a pretty ball dominant player for the Spurs. But if you want that duo to work, you're going to have to start figuring out ways for both of them to have the ball, not as much in, passing it around, in my opinion. But if they can figure that part out, I mean, talent wise, they're up there as one of the better teams in the East for sure.
I agree. It all come, at least on the offensive end. You can't have the ball stick to Trae because he is a small guard, and it is easier to read isolation plays or to defend someone who is, a little bit bigger than the average height of a normal person. It's, if you walk past Trae Young in public, you probably wouldn't even notice it's him unless you were looking at him in the face, because
I mean, I would notice his haircut, so probably, yeah.
Maybe that, but like, he's normal person size. That's what makes, like, when you observe him, that's what makes you realize like how amazing he is at least on offense. But even with like the ball in his hands a lot, and it needs to come down. DeJounte Murray is an excellent player, I think, at getting in where he fits in, and with extra time, being Trae's teammate, and again with new instruction with Quinn Snyder, you got some guys who it'll be like their first training camp there too, like Sadiq Bey. They could potentially do some things this year. Maybe not like a really deep playoff run, but maybe scare someone in the second round, or really spoil it for a team trying to get into the playoffs late in the season. But they have a bunch of talent that shouldn't just be ignored.
I'm gonna make a bit of a hot take here. I think there's a legitimate chance, if the Hawks don't have the start they want to have, I think there's a legitimate chance Trae Young could be dealt at the trade deadline. We've been hearing some rumblings the last couple of years about Trae Young potentially leaving. He's had some pretty sketchy tweets on Twitter, the last couple of months. Look, at some point, I do think they're going to have to choose between DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. It's going to be interesting what they do, but if they don't get off to a good start, man, I really believe there's a chance that Trae Young could be dealt at the deadline, maybe at the end of the season. But I wouldn't rule that out for sure, man.
For all his flaws, short arms too, lazy on defense. I wouldn't trade him right now. He's a little bit too young for that, and I don't think the ultimate case has been made on who he is as a player. He's kind of like tiny Archibald-esque in this sense. I think last season and the year before, he was like in the top 5 in both scoring and assists. He does a whole lot for his team, and I know he could probably trust some more of his teammates, but he is one of those few players in the league that's kind of like a nuclear offensive option. And I know I mentioned that about Spider a little bit ago, but Trae can do a lot. It's too early for me, and you consider like someone like Luka.
Yeah.
Most people would think there's not a comparison to the player, but look at what they've done in the postseason. They both came in the league at the same time, traded for each other nonetheless, and they've both led their teams to conference finals. They've both, probably been coach killers. But and they've both had, tough moments, and nobody's saying, trade Luka. So I don't know. I think people get on Trae too much. Certainly there are things like his relationship with Nate McMillan was lacking. Coach Lloyd Pierce before that, which those things are on him, because if you're the franchise guy, you got to be a better leader. But he's just too good for me to give up right now.
Yeah, look, and by the way, I mean, I'm just saying there's a chance. Are they probably going to do it? Probably not, but I wouldn't rule it out. And look, this is a guy they basically traded straight up for Luka Doncic at the time during the draft. I mean, it's really hard to part ways with a player like this. They're going to definitely think about it. But all I'm going to say is there's some rumbling starting to go on in Atlanta. We've been hearing it really at the end of the season and in the summer. And I'm telling you right now, man, if things don't get off to the way they want it, I think there's a chance. Remember, they really gave the keys to Quinn Snyder. He wouldn't have taken the job halfway through the season if he wasn't guaranteed some things. I do believe he has a huge say on the roster, and if he wants Trae Young, he'll get Trae Young. But from what I could tell, their relationship's pretty good. I've heard him talk really nice things about him, and he's really a big fan of him. So we'll see, man. I'm just saying there's a chance. But as far as talent, the Hawks are one of the more talented teams in the East. But I think I think the narrative is a little bit over, man. We should really start talking about them. Can they get to the Eastern Conference Finals again, and maybe even get to the finals? Because first or second round is kind of nice once in a while, but it gets old pretty fast if you're a Hawks fan in general, because this team, I'm not going to lie to you, Mateo, this team has the talent to at least get to an Eastern Conference Finals. Can they put it all together consistently? That's really my question for them.
For sure. And they did before. They got to replicate that type of success and, really be about each other. I think back a lot. So, and they have before. It was in 2021. They just got to replicate that type of success, and the way they moved the ball that season. Hopefully, they can do it under Quinn Snyder. But I think back a lot to the 2014 Pacers. Sorry to bring them up again, but Paul George mentioned that team really bonded with each other, and the guys really liked each other, and that was a big reason why they were successful in the regular season, being the 1 seed and getting to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the LeBron James-led Heat. But they do have pieces to make things interesting. I know there's probably better players on other teams, like there's Butler in Miami, you got Giannis in Milwaukee, but that doesn't make it a guarantee that they're automatically going to run the table. That's why it's a competition. A couple of years ago, most people would have thought that Miami would have been better than Atlanta, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah, exactly, man. You basically hit the nail on the head. We're gonna see. I'm sure we're gonna talk about the West probably on the next podcast or two, but there's so much talent in the East. I don't think the Wizards are gonna be as bad as people think they are. I mean, I've talked about this on the previous pods. Even like the bad teams are still talented, man. They're still gonna be fun to watch. Like if I have League Pass and I see the Pistons are on, I wouldn't mind watching them, man.
Yeah, and even with some team like the Pistons, they got like a bunch of guys like Marvin Bagley, James Wiseman, like the undesired who still
Cade
got
Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. I mean, the list goes on and on, dude.
absolutely like plus Bojan Bogdanovic, another undesired who now is kind of sought out by championship or contending teams for his marksmanship,
Yeah.
but a team that probably won't compete for anything serious outside of maybe a play-in berth at best, but they could really like be a fun watch next season on the League Pass.
Yeah, they'll be like a fun NBA League Pass team. Like also the Hornets, man. Like they got LaMelo Ball, they got Brandon Miller. Now they have what's his name coming back?
Miles Bridges.
Miles
Yeah.
Bridges. I mean, that's going to be a pretty fun team to watch talent wise. I mean, like I said, man, I don't think we've ever seen the NBA as deep as it is now. Like even the Rockets, who are probably not going to win as many games. I mean, Fred VanVleet. I'm not going to mention Dylan Brooks, but you got guys like Cam Whitmore, Jalen Green, a lot of young talent. Jabari Smith, who looks like he's going to be a real player this season. So it's going to be a fun watch, man. I mean, there's never really a bad night to watch a team because it's just so deeply talented. So that's what I love about the NBA now, man. It's just going to, no matter if you're bored one night and just want to watch a team, there they are. All right, since we're talking about the East, let's quickly transition to Joel Embiid and his comments, and we'll also talk about James Harden still sticking firm on a trade demand. But let's start with Joel Embiid and his comments. So for the viewers at home that didn't get to see, talk about the comments that Joel Embiid said, and then give your thoughts on that real quick.
Well, he was having a discussion with Maverick Carter. Joel was promoting his new media company, but specifically what he said was that he wants to win a championship, but the part that has people concerned is that he said, I don't know where that's going to be also. And, listen, Joel really digs Philadelphia. Everyone knows that, but I think this is a case of putting his foot in his mouth, and what doesn't help is that it didn't seem insincere in the moment. He really sounded like he meant, I'll win a championship wherever. That's what it sounded like. And he responded to someone on Twitter, excuse me. Look at my name, and his Twitter handle is Joel Troll and Embiid. Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test. He probably should have come up with like a better excuse. But here's the thing: in the end, it looks unprofessional because that's a team that's had his back, especially, the first 2 years he was in the league and he didn't play. And if you think, going back to draft night 2014, when he was the third pick, from then till now, he only averages like 44 games a season. And the last few, like he's broken the threshold of 70% multiple times and then 80% in these back-to-back seasons. So he's been a little bit better in terms of writing the narrative about his health, but you still see late in the playoffs, like this year, an issue where he is not a fully 100%, one with his leg, with his knee. In previous years, it was the same thing against the Toronto Raptors, hurt in the bubble. Last season, I remember he suffered an orbital bone fracture while also being, nicked up in his legs. This is a team that, it has always had his back. And, I'm sure it doesn't feel good for like people at every level of the organization, players, coaches, front office, valets, ushers, when they hear Joel say, or anywhere.
Yeah, man. Look, Joel Embiid's a really, really good player. He's obviously coming off an reigning MVP. But this guy's personality is known for being a troll. But I do agree with you. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. I do believe some of the comments he said. I'm going to be quite frankly honest. I know Philadelphia Sixers fans are probably not going to be happy to hear this, but I think the worst kept secret in the league right now is Joel Embiid going to the Knicks within next season. Look, man, their time is running around in Philly. I think if they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year, I think there is a legitimate chance he will be in a Knick jersey next year. That's just my humble opinion. I I don't have any sources. I have no intel on that. It's just my humble opinion. I've seen it a couple of times, but it's just the writing's on the wall. Knicks have all these first round picks. They're looking for a star, and who better do they get to get a personality and a awesome MVP player like Embiid?
You know, someone like Joel is definitely gonna fetch a very large package, and you know, I'm not so sure. If I would be buying, because he's a great player when he's healthy, but again, every year at the end of the season, there's always something significantly hindering him, and someone of his caliber, who just won the MVP. It could be a deal like the Carmelo Anthony one from 12 years ago, where Denver got a serious haul for Carmelo. It was ridiculous, and the Knicks didn't have many great pieces to put around him. Yeah, they had Stoudemire, they had Tyson Chandler, but that as good as they were was, what was it, like a second or third seed in 2013, and they stalled out in the semifinals. Listen, Joel is going to be. I think Joel is going to be there for a long time. As far as requesting out, listen, I think there would have to be a real terrible job by Daryl Morey, and to tell you the truth, it's starting to look that way. But it would have to be super disastrous for me to see Joel asking out, and why I think it already looks bad. Daryl Morey's tenure is Ben Simmons is gone. You traded him for James Harden. James Harden is looking to bounce, and apparently the relationship with him and the front office is seriously fractured. And even if he doesn't bounce this season, you got 1 year left on his deal, so it's not looking good organization wise, aside from Joel Embiid.
Yeah, and speaking and great points on Embiid. There's nothing really more for me to say on it. Let's transition it to Harden since we're talking about him now. Listen, Harden still has talent. He led the league in assists last year. He's still, don't get me wrong, he's still a really good player, but I think it's fair to say he's lost a step even too. But look, Daryl Morey, we know him. He wants to trade him for a superstar or a star. And I just don't think the Clippers are willing to give Paul George back. I mean, I think that's what they're waiting for. There's a report that just came out. James Harden is still quote unquote firm on going to the Clippers. We see the bodysuit memes again. But look, I think ultimately he's going to be on the Clippers. It's just a matter of what Morey's willing to get back in return. We've seen this movie before. Harden, if he doesn't like something, will do anything he can to get out of it. Whether that's gain weight, be a nuisance around the facility, whatever it takes, he's going to get his way. We've seen it 3 other times. But overall, look, I do think ultimately he's going to be on the Clippers. I do think we're going to see Kawhi, Paul George, and Leonard on the same team, or Kawhi, Paul George, and Harden on the same team. And I do believe that ultimately we're going to see Terrence Mann, Norman Powell, throwing a couple of picks going back to Philadelphia. I just don't see. I know I said last pod that he's going to come back, with reports now that the relationship's getting more fractured, and him continuing to stand firm on him going to LA. I think it's just a matter of time at this point.
Some of the reports are, like you said, Daryl Morey is upping the ante so hard that other teams are thinking this dude doesn't really want to make a serious negotiation. And if that's seriously what's going on, it makes me believe Daryl Morey is going to try again to move him at the February deadline. And
yeah,
this is going to be a very uncomfortable situation for the 76ers, quite possibly. But if James Harden is firm on getting to the Clippers, with 1 year left, just wait, sign as a free agent, and take a discount that way, because your market value is dwindling, precipitously. It's kind of amazing how the guy who averaged or led the league in assists can't generate the type of attention he wants on the market. But personally, I wouldn't go after James Harden. he's good, but he's not as great as he used to be.
He's just not worth the headache anymore. I agree.
Not just here's the thing. Listen, I have this on good authority. Peter Vesti told me this, formerly New York Post, that when before he bounced out of Houston, he officially signed off on John Wall being Russell Westbrook's replacement when Silas was coming in. The organization followed that information. They got Wall, and he was like, "All right, get me the hell out of here." You know, he's someone who leaves people high and dry. He's also someone who, like been reported, you know, made the team bus and plane wait for him while he went out to party. You know, did who knows what? He's someone who is me. And here's the thing: he's not like a young player anymore. I remember at some point in the 2021-2022 season, I think he had just gotten to Philadelphia. You know, one night him spending the whole entire night in the studio with Lil Baby. And here's the thing: this is tough for me to say because I'm someone who has great admiration for musicians, and I would love to spend one entire night with them, you know, in the studio. But you know, he had to play like the next day, and he did that. You know, James Harden is someone who puts, you know, himself before team, and you know, personally, I think the Clippers, they need someone of his talents, but they don't need a man like him.
I agree, man. It's a tough position. Look, James Harden is on the fringe of you could still trade it for him because he's a good player, but is it really worth the hassle you get back? I mean, this is a guy who's been traded 3 times in a span of what, a couple of years. So, I mean, you get what you ask for him. But look, he's still a really good player, man. But his time is running out. He needs that championship. Never got to an NBA Finals, and you know, it's as great as
2012 with the Thunder.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. But look, his time is running out, man. He has. Let's be fair. 2 years at best of this level, and he better use it wisely. And I would seriously consider thinking not leaving Philly because leaving Embiid, that's a tough thing to do. But we'll see what happens, man. It's the NBA. Anything's possible. With that said, man, let's move into our last thing. That's Zion Williamson. Let's be honest. This guy is one of the most talented players in the league, but you know, he came out the other day that, you know, eating for him is a serious problem. Like he really struggles with that. He really has a tough time sticking to a diet. He has a tough time sticking to his routine. He has a tough time, you know, with forget all the noise about, you know, all the women, but just strictly on a player. This is one of the most talented players in the league when he's right. I mean, this guy is an offensive threat. I mean, he's one of the most unstoppable players when he's in the paint. This guy is so damn talented. We saw what he did at Duke. He's a player we've never seen before. For his weight and what he can do athletically is insane. He is, in my opinion, a franchise player. But can he stay healthy? Can he eat right? We saw that. I'm gonna let you talk about that first.
Well, I eventually have to get into some of his personal issues that have been reported, but you know, sticking with, you know, the game first. Do you know how many games per season he averages since draft night in 2019?
I would say 26.
A little higher. It's 28 and a half since draft night, and this is, you know, counting him missing all of 2021, 2022, and playing 29 games this year. Well, this past season. Yeah, he's really good when he plays. Defensively, he's not super impactful. You know, he's someone who I've seen, you know, opposing guards, you know, try to cook, or especially like in the drop coverage, because he's someone who's better protecting, you know, the painted area. But on offense, he has kind of like a Shaquille O'Neal like impact in terms of, like, you know, how much he bends the defense and how much, you know, attention he draws inside the paint and exposing the perimeter for snipers. But, you know, it's really concerning because the injuries he has to his lower body, you know, you don't think there can't possibly be improvement if he stays heavy. And what concerns me a lot, Rob, is last offseason, like a year ago, he got a new trainer, a new nutritionist. I'm drawing a blank on their name, but I have their name written down somewhere in notes. But here's the thing. it seemed like as soon as he got hurt this season, after he played in 29 games, he stopped. It seems like to me from the outside, he stopped doing a lot of those things because he got very heavy, as he was watching the team throughout the season. And people will be like, well, of course, he's not playing, but, there's still a lot of exercises you can do without, using your legs, like your abdominals. There's plenty of things you can do working with the world's finest trainers to stay slim. And it's very, alarming that he's put on, weight again with, lower body injuries having been consistently a thing since 2019. But now it's a huge problem, Rob. The problems with his personal life. And I hate to mention it because, we should mostly be covering, the professional side. But some weeks ago, he and his significant other made a big time announcement, and adult film star Mariah Mills was very upset, and was exposing a relationship she had with him. She even revealed some messages. But here's the thing: when this was going on weeks ago, it looked to me, like some type of extortion, because she said something about having some type of tape that incriminated him, in sexual activities, which whatever, that's personal between them. But the way she mentioned it seemed like a threat. She got her account taken down on Twitter. But here, the worst part about it is, within the last few days, Mariah Mills has recorded a video saying that Zion Williamson has physically abused her. And it's just, listen, that's a very serious accusation. I have no evidence for either party. Like, when something like that is said, it should be treated with respect. Even when you consider who says it, that doesn't, just because of who they are doesn't mean bad things can't happen. And I'm not saying that to cast immediate guilt. Someone in this country is innocent until proven guilty. But this is the type of headache. It's not just his physical problems with his health. There's this very huge problem with his personal life. And here's the thing: you rest assured the NBA is investigating this. But when the NBA a year ago found reason to well, they investigated Miles Bridges.
Yeah.
They found enough stuff to keep him out of the league. That's how serious this type of stuff is. So this is just a very terrible, situation to be in. And, I'm going to reserve a further comment until, more stuff comes out.
Yeah. And listen, man, I really hope Zion gets it right, because I enjoy watching him play. He's obviously a phenomenal talent. And as far as the defensive questions, I think it's just a lack of effort. I mean, when he really tries, he swats the ball into the fifth row. When you're that athletic, you could be really good at defense. It's just a matter of effort, in my opinion. But look, offensively, you're right. He has Shaq vibes. He could bulldoze anyone he wants. We sometimes see point guard Zion. I really hope he gets it right, man. CJ McCollum is there. He's a true veteran. I think he's going to help him get better. But if the Pelicans want to reach anywhere near their goals, he has to be healthy. Brandon Ingram is obviously a really good player. CJ McCollum is a nice player. But we all know this team is going to go as far as Zion can take them. And if he's healthy, they're going to have a great year. If he's not, they're going to be a playing team. That's just as simple as that.
I'm not sure about play-in team. If, let's say, they miss Zion for the majority of last or this season, like the last one.
Yeah.
I could see them being like a 6th seed at best. Trey Murphy is one of my candidates for, most improved. I know I mentioned Obi Toppin earlier, but this guy, Murphy.
I love Trey Murphy, man, out of Virginia. Yeah.
To me, he looks like a taller Desmond Bain. I really love Brandon Ingram. To me, he's someone who, if he wanted to, could lead the league in scoring. He's got that type of game.
I agree with that as well. Yeah.
His handle is elusive enough to shake defenders. He's got a great shot at the mid-range, and he can slither inside the lane. He is tremendous. Jonas Valanciunas is one of my favorite underrated bigs. So, they got some pieces. It's just what's really sad about this whole thing, Rob, is Zion is so good offensively that they could really be one of the top teams in the West. They could be one of the best of the West if they had him consistently.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. Talent-wise, I'm willing to go. He's a top 10 talented player in terms of talent, but that's just my humble opinion. But as far as putting it together is another story. You got to look. He got essentially a max contract, and part of that max contract is you got to learn how to eat right, put your body in great shape. I mean, injuries happen. If it's fluky, it's fluky. It happens. It's part of the game. But controlling what you eat, controlling your work habits, controlling your weight regimen, all that stuff. Going to the gym, working harder, working on your game. That's all stuff you can't control. And right now he's just not doing it. But if he puts it all together, man, he's a franchise player. I think it's that simple.
I think the best compliment I can give him is that when he's playing, he is so dominant that he doesn't need the 3-point shot
Exactly.
In today's day and age where it's over like 44% or it's like 44% of teams' attempts from the field. Like he is so, skilled and, imposing inside the lane that his field goal percentage is in the 60s. And, if you're eating that much at the rim, why do you need to take a harder shot, that you're probably not going to make? He's one of those players that, requires, instant attention as soon as he catches the ball, like within 7 feet, excuse me. But, I really hope he gets it right. And, last season, man, when he was working with his trainers, like up until like, when he went out, he was looking really good. Like the shape he was in, I thought that the work his trainers and his nutritionists were doing was tremendous. So he's got to get back to that and hopefully just, stay on the court, of course.
Yeah, man. We're both in agreement on that. I mean, we're not questioning his talent at all. It's really, can he just put it all together? Any last words on that, man, before we go?
Yeah, man. I really like the Pelicans next season if he's healthy. One of my favorite players is Jose Alvarado, this backup point guard.
Grand Theft Alvarado, man. I love that.
That's excellent. Whoever came up with this nickname deserves a serious raise. But he's so good that he got Chris Paul to take an elbow at him at some point last season. I love players that get into your shirt defensively like that, and they just got dogs on that roster. And I would like to really see New Orleans do well.
I'm telling you right now, man, we saw it in the beginning of the season last year when Zion was healthy. They were a top 3 team in the West standing wise. So, I mean, they were a really popular pick to make the second round of the West, even potentially get to the Western Conference Finals. So, it's really, I mean, the talent's there. Can Willie Green get him motivated, and can his trainers get him right? If they can, they're gonna have a great year. That's the bottom line. We don't have time for fan questions today. We'll do that next week. We only have an hour of time. But guys, thanks for watching. Mateo, like always, thanks for coming on. Twice a week we're gonna do this, guys. Really appreciate the support. We love talking NBA. Send us your questions on Twitter. You can reach me at Robert_Bentulan or my bio MIA Sports House. And Mateo, how can they reach you?
Mateo Mayorga 23 on Twitter, or you can find me at 5reasonsports.com and at Fanside at the King James Gospel. Thank you.
And you can also talk about your diary, Hoops Diary, real quick. Explain to them what that is.
Oh man, listen, I just started this on my Substack. I don't have any projects there yet, but I will have more stuff available there. I will put a link on my Twitter, or also on Threads, Instagram as well, so you guys can find it there. But a lot of my content on 5 Reasons and Fansided is focused on the Heat and the Cavaliers and some stuff at the national level. But I want to I kind of want to do something a little bit more special for the fans with my Substack now.
Cool, man. Well, we're looking forward to that. I love it. It's a great read. To the fans, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, sir.